If you're joining me today, you're most likely looking to make your transition from Adobe Search and Promote to Coveo as smooth as possible. Or perhaps you're simply looking to educate yourself and make the right decision for a future migration. Either way, you'll benefit from this quick overview of the Coveo equivalent of the major features which were available to you in Search and Promote. Although the capabilities of Coveo go way beyond what Search and Promote can offer, this video should nonetheless help you get on the right path towards providing world-class experiences to your customers. Before getting started, I want to introduce you to the Coveo administration console where we'll be working. From here, you can manage pretty much everything relating to your Coveo deployment. Currently, I'm in a Coveo cloud organization called Search and Promote, but you can have multiple organizations with completely separate purposes. For example, sandboxes for your non-production environments like staging, dev, or UAT. The data between organizations is completely segregated and they can be created in multiple regions, as is the case for our European customers who are subject to GDPR and its data residency requirements. So first things first, we can't have search without adding content. To get started, we'll need to be in the Sources section and we'll click on the Add Source button. From here, you'll immediately notice that we have quite a few more options than what you had available to you in Search and Promote. In addition to being able to crawl websites through dedicated website or sitemap connectors, we can choose from a variety of pre-built connectors to index sources of content like Confluence, YouTube, or even your own databases. For any other custom sources of data, we have access to a connector made for retrieving content from any REST API, as well as the versatile push sources, which give you full control to send your own content to the platform directly. For now, we'll choose the web connector. When you click it, you'll get options for Web Cloud or Web Crawling Module. The crawling module is a packaged version of this connector, which can be deployed on premises if, for example, you need to index content behind a firewall like an intranet website. For the moment, we'll simply choose Web Cloud for the demo. When it comes to indexing your site, in Adobe Search and Promote, you had the ability to define entry points where crawlers would begin ingesting content. You could also do things like add URL masks to include or exclude certain parts of your site from being crawled. Going back to the configuration of the web connector, we can start by giving our source a name and entering a main URL for the site we wish to crawl. I also want to narrow this down to only include the solutions part of the website. To do that, we'll go to the Content to Include section and add an inclusion filter which can be based on a simple wildcard or match more complicated patterns through a regex. In Search and Promote, it was possible to create filtering scripts in Perl to change the HTML of pages being indexed or to extract specific metadata. With the Coveo Web Connector, by default, the full HTML of the page is indexed and all of the meta tags are extracted automatically. But we have the ability to retrieve specific pieces of information from the page or to modify the HTML if we choose to do so. The first method is to use the built-in web scraping section, which allows us to use CSS or XPath selectors to extract information or exclude HTML on the page from being indexed. The second way of doing it more closely resembles the Search and Promote filtering scripts by using the extension sections on the Coveo administration console. Here you can add an extension, which is basically just a script to modify your content, with the distinction being that Coveo scripts are in Python instead of Perl. Before saving our web connector source, I'm going to show you one more section at the top here, which is authentication. In case you have parts of your website which are behind a login, you can fill in this section and the login form will be submitted automatically for you. For now, we'll set it to none and click on Add and Build Source to begin crawling. While our initial build is going on, we can take a look at the Schedule section here, where you have the ability to schedule a rescan of your content on a daily, hourly, weekly, monthly basis, however you want. The rescan will look through all the pages on the site, but will only send those that have changed to the index. With our initial build now completed, we can take a look at the content through the content browser and inspect individual items to see what information they contain. We can also go ahead and create our first search page directly from the administration console. Coveo has a JavaScript search framework which offers a large number of components to help you quickly build search interfaces, including essentials like facets which you had access to in Search and Promote. Let's click on Add Page, and we'll give our page a name as well as a title for the HTML title element. We'll click on Set up a search page. We'll choose the tabs that we want to add to the page and click on Create Page. From here, we can click on the Edit Search Page button, which leads us to the interface editor. In here, you'll be able to add new components on the page simply by dragging and dropping. So if I want to add a new facet, I can drop it, give it a title, select the field that's associated with it. We'll click OK. We'll set a default value here and click Apply. Now I can filter my content by source as well. If I had multiple content sources, of course, there will be multiple values displayed in here. In addition to dropping components on the page and configuring them, we have a few more things that we can do, including the ability to modify our result templates directly from this interface as well. It works in a similar manner, allowing us to drag and drop any kind of result template component directly on the section which interests us. I'll go ahead and discard this change for now. And we can take a look at the code view at the top here. So anything that you do in the UI is going to be reflected in the code view. You can take the output of this and copy it to a local page if you want. And you'll also notice some components that are hidden away, like the Coveo Did You Mean, which does exactly what it looks like. It enables the Did You Mean functionality, similar to what you had in Search and Promote. So in this case, if I write, for example, platform without the O, it's going to automatically correct the query to platform. You can choose whether it does the automatic correction or not, but by default it's going to be enabled. Before we jump back into the platform, there's one more really important detail. The JavaScript search framework, by default, out of the box, will capture usage analytics event for everything that's going on here. So when a user submits a query, or when they click on a facet or on a result, a usage analytics event is sent, and that information is essential to not only analyzing the data through reports, but for feeding our machine learning models, which will in turn improve the order of results, improve relevance, provide query suggestions, influence the order of facets if you choose to do so. Just a plethora of things that are going to happen simply enabled by the fact that we capture all this valuable information. Going back to the Coveo.com website, we can see the result of that data being collected simply by clicking in the query box at the top. We get suggestions for queries, and by itself that maybe doesn't look very impressive. In Search and Promote, you have the ability to use autocomplete, which is based on field values or on popular queries. The distinction here is that when I start typing something, the suggestion that I'm getting is not based on popularity or a field. It's based on the fact that someone searched for machine learning and then clicked on a result. That entire flow means that the query and the associated results are a path to success, which we want to enable for other users as well. There are a few important Search and Promote features like rules, synonyms, and collections, for which replacements are grouped in an important concept that we call query pipelines. If we head into the query pipeline section and double click to enter the default query pipeline, you'll see that we have a variety of different tabs that can be used to influence how results are returned in a variety of different ways. Starting with the Thesaurus tab, here you can add rules for synonyms or eponyms, choosing to expand a certain keyword by adding others, by replacing the keywords that are there. And for any of the elements in query pipelines, you can choose to apply them also only based on a certain condition if you want. So it can be based on a country that the user is querying from, or it could even be something like what time of day it is. In the result ranking tab, we have the ability to add two different types of rules. The first one being featured results, so saying that a specific result will return if a certain keyword is there. or any other condition that you can imagine. So if you want to highlight a certain product or a certain page based on a keyword, you can do that with a featured result. You can also add a ranking expression. So if I select that, I could, for example, decide to boost a certain source of content, like the web source that we created earlier. If someone types in the word solutions, I want content that matches the following expression. So at source, the field value of source being Coveo website, the one that we created earlier, and I want that to be boosted by 100, for instance. So if we had multiple sources of content, it's possible that for some reason, when someone searches for solutions, I want this source of content to be prioritized above others. In the ranking weight section, we can influence the way that Coveo ranks items by default with our built-in algorithm. So if you want to do things like favor items which are more recent, you can increase the weighting of item last modification, for example, here. Or if you want to favor the fact that a certain keyword is present in the title, you can also adjust that here. So this really allows you to fine-tune how everything works out of the box in a more general way. The trigger section allows you to execute certain actions in response to a query. If we click on the Add Rule button here, you'll see that you have 4 options. The first thing that can happen is that you can display a specific message in the search interface to the user based on the query. You can force another query to be executed in response to the first one. You can run some custom JavaScript in the browser. And one of the more common ones that we see used is the redirect. So if a user types in a specific query, for example, help, you could redirect them to a help page or to a support page if you choose to do so. The filter section simply allows you to narrow down the scope of the results that are returned to the user based on a certain condition that you want. So if you know that the query is emanating from a certain search page, I can say that I want to filter down the source to be a specific source. As easy as that. To wrap this up, I want to highlight another feature which you had in Search and Promote, and that's the ability to do reporting on what your users queried for. In Coveo, the reporting capabilities are quite a bit more advanced. By default, when you reach this section, you'll have a few different reports, so dashboards and explorers available. If we go into this summary report, at first, you'll notice that we have no queries because we're scoped down on a previous timeline, so the previous week here. But if I set this to be the current dates, you'll notice the queries that are from the things that I did on the platform just a bit earlier. Obviously, this report doesn't have a lot of data, but if we switch over to one of our demo orgs called Speedbit, you can see that these reports can get quite detailed. So seeing the influence of machine learning, number of cases created in our service use cases, the cost of support, seeing keywords without results in different ways, the possibilities are really limitless. So we've taken a very quick look at how Coveo replaces the functionality you had in Search and Promote, but we've barely scratched the surface of what you can do with the platform. If you have any questions, you can contact us directly through the website to schedule a demo, discuss your needs, and plan your migration from Search and Promote. Thanks for joining me.